Thank you for joining us for another episode of USATF's Journey to Goal Zone podcast. I am your host, Erik Kynard Jr., joined by the
Wallace Spearman Jr.
And ladies and gentlemen, we have a very special guest with us this afternoon. We have three-time world champion, Paralympic champion, two-time Paralympic bronze medalist, right? Is it Paralympic world champion or is it just world champion? Like that, we got to figure out.
Hey man, it's your show. Whatever you want, baby.
Nah, man, listen, it's your show, man.
All I know is you got a cool last name.
Cool last name, cool first name. Ladies and gentlemen, Jarryd Wallace.
What's up,
Wallace?
All right, Jarryd, four-time Paralympian, London, Tokyo, Rio, all the above, Paris, obviously last year, bronze last year in Paris. Talk to us a little bit about, obviously, your experience with the Paralympic Games, and we'll get into, how you happened upon, being a para-athlete. But just talk to us a little bit about this summer and post-Paris and just the Paralympic experience there.
Yeah, for sure. Golly, fourth games is kind of crazy to even wrap my head around. And, Tokyo was just a unique experience for everyone with COVID and everything that was going on at that time. But, man, Paris, it just felt like the games were back. We had an awesome village atmosphere. We were allowed to go out into the city and explore and get immersed in the culture. The venues were fantastic. So, yeah, it was just nice to kind of get back into the, traditional, if you will, Olympic and Paralympic experience. So, I was just so stoked to be there. Very different from the first previous three games. I was not on the track. I was more in the field doing long jumps. So, it was really cool just to be, coming from an event where the gun goes off 10 seconds later, the race is over, and it's either just like sadness or victory and glory, and just like there's no in between, to a 2-hour event that you get 6 jumps and you get to interact with the crowd and you get to feel the energy of the stadium. And it's just a different experience. And man, I was just so grateful to not only be able to experience that side of track and field, but to be able to get on the podium and bring home some hardware for the good guys. Man, it was a heck of an experience.
It sounds like you miss being a field event athlete to me a little bit in that whole explanation right there. You show so much love to the atmosphere involved with the field events and, the time and the climax and anti-climax. And then it was just I didn't feel the passion in the description of that 10-second race. You know what I mean? I feel like you really want to come back T64, back to the long jump, man, and just see what's going on in the sandpit. That's the enthusiasm in there just seems like it was geared towards the field events.
The energy, the energy. They're two completely different events. I don't have to explain that to you guys. I mean, it really is. It is a different experience from a competition standpoint. The energy just places itself in different ways. I would say it's a little bit more constant, where the highs and lows are a little bit more rapid on the sprint side. But yeah, it was definitely cool to see a different perspective of track and field.
So how long have you been competing professionally?
2011 was my very first U.S. team of the Pan American Games, and won the gold medal in the 100 and ran the fastest time in the world that year in 2011. So it was kind of my first international experience. Guadalajara, that's right.
Yeah.
And then, okay. Why haven't you been sprinting as of recent, man? What the heck's been going on?
Well, when you, and I feel like maybe this isn't everything, but I've been doing it for a long time, and I think I just got too close to it, but I was getting burnt out, and I didn't feel like my career was over. I didn't feel like I was supposed to be done with athletics. Felt like I was still. I'm not in a position where I feel like I have more to prove, or more things I want to accomplish. But I just didn't feel like I was done yet. But I wasn't having fun, and I kind of was losing my joy, and I think the best way to say I was just too close to it. I think I was starting to kind of get in the weeds on things and get distracted in some areas, and I needed to zoom out. And sometimes zooming out means taking time off and just stepping away. And I did that for a little bit after the games in Tokyo. But, when I started thinking about it, during most of my career, I always had people come up to me, be like, man, you take that foot speed on the long jump one way, you might be able to do something impressive. Like I'm always kind of hearing that in the back of my mind. I'm like, that sounds fun. I like new challenges. I like to kind of conquer new hills. I think one thing I've learned throughout my career is when I find one event and I really hyper focus on it, I can excel really well, really quickly. And doesn't mean I can't do well in certain other events, but when the years where I really leaned into the 100, man, I had great 100 success. The years I really leaned into the 200, I had great 200 success. And so I kind of said, you know what, instead of trying to juggle, multiple events and try to hold on to, staying in the 100, let's just go all in the long jump and just see what happens. And, was fortunate enough to be able to work alongside Dan Paff in that past 2-year journey to really study the event and the technical aspects and the technical nature. And to be honest with you, man, like I learned so much on the long jump runway about sprinting and just the understanding of the phases. And when you're running 25 miles an hour and you have to hit a board that's 20 centimeters long, you better have your steps on. You better have your rhythm on the runway consistent, and there's no room for error. And I never really thought through the 100 or the 200 through that lens before, because there was no like set thing that had to be done perfectly for an outcome. It was like, just go through the phases and take what you get. And that's just kind of how I always processed it. Coming into the long jump runway and really having to consider the risk and reward of missing a step, it can be detrimental. You're off the tiniest little bit and you foul out 3 and you're out of the competition. And so it put an extra layer of emphasis on some variables that I'd never considered before. And I think it made me a much better athlete, to be honest with you.
Speaking of the risk and rewards involved with taking steps, Jarryd, you started as an able-bodied athlete, University of Georgia, Georgia native, 2010, I believe, junior year in college. You had, I believe, since high school, been having a bout with compartment syndrome. Those of you who participate in sports and running in particular may be familiar with that. Can you talk to us a little bit about compartment syndrome, and then just kind of you making the decision, to take the next step and take the risk and actually deciding based on a lack of the ability to continue to develop muscle in your leg to sit with doctors and have an amputation take place, and just, that step and what that was like, transitioning, through life's adversity as it was presented to you in that way.
Yeah, man. No, for sure. And I think this kind of goes into the nature of even just getting another layer of track and field. So I grew up as a 800, 1500 meter, 5K, distance runner. My mom was a Canadian national champion distance runner. She ran track at the University of Georgia. My dad played tennis at Georgia. That's where they met. We've lived in Athens my whole life. Dad being a collegiate tennis coach. So, I grew up and was immersed in sports. I would say I probably won the gene pool lottery for sure with the genes they passed on there. But, I grew up on the distance running side of things. And that was, that was my roots and foundation in track and field. And going through high school, won multiple state titles in the 800 and the mile run, and had signed to run track at the University of Georgia through, as you mentioned, most of my high school career. I kind of had just this overuse injury. I thought I was injury prone originally, and then my senior year of high school, I found out that it was something called chronic exertional compartment syndrome, and it feels a lot like a stress fracture. It's in the same exact area, but instead of it being a structural issue, it's muscular. So pressure builds up in your calves and cuts off nerve function and blood flow to your foot, can really just disrupt movement and can be extremely painful. So if I would go out for a long run, by the end of the run, sometimes I would have drop foot and I wouldn't be able to control my foot and would start tripping. And so I had to monitor my volume. Well, we found out that if I had the surgery done for compartment syndrome, then I wouldn't have to deal with that anymore. So for me, man, I was like, athlete, just signed to run track at Georgia, hearing that I can train pain-free for the first time ever in my life, like bring that on. Let's go. 6 weeks, no problem. So went forward, had that surgery, and just unfortunately I had complications in that surgery. It caused me to lose 60% of the muscle from my knee down, and spent the next 2.5 years, I had a total of 10 reconstructive surgeries trying to save my leg.
Mm.
18 years old with the dream of becoming a collegiate athlete, following in my parents' footsteps and their legacy at the University of Georgia, with the hopes of going on to run at the Olympic trials at the, legendary Hayward Field one day. Everything came crashing down in one moment. And, for a long time, I really struggled a lot with loss of identity and just trying to figure out who I was. I feel like I put, 17, 18 years old, you're pursuing athletics. That's all you know. That's all you know. That's all people see you as. And having to rediscover who I was at 18, 19, 20 years old, and ultimately getting to a place where, I realized that not only was my life going to look drastically different in the sense that I was probably not going to be able to be active or run with a deformed leg, but then find out, hey, those things might be possible, but it's going to be possible if you're willing to have your leg amputated. And, what a radical decision to have to kind of be faced with, but also, it was quality of life, or, live with a deformed limb and deal with where I was. And I wasn't happy.
Yeah. And I mean, how long, Jarryd, would you say that, obviously, depression and oppression and, suppression as it relates to emotions and circumstance are real, right? Being oppressed by the adversity of obviously life and circumstance related to health. How long was that deliberation for you? You spoke a little bit about, your identity as an athlete, your identity as an able-bodied individual, and that identity kind of being in crisis there. How long was that deliberation for you? Like, was it okay, one doctor's visit, hey, I'm going to do this, I'm going to amputate my leg and I'm just going to kind of, go ahead and go ahead with life? Or was it, a process and a series of, seemingly meetings or interventions or, kind of self-talks that helped you, come to that conclusion?
I think one of the more unique parts of my journey and story, and probably one of the things that at the time was the absolutely hardest thing to endure, but now looking back is the thing that I'm most grateful for, was the fact that there was an 18-month period from the first surgery. It was about 18, almost 2 years from the first surgery until I sat into a doctor's office where he kind of really said amputation was the only other option. And during that 18 months, I had a total of 10 surgeries. And during that period of time, I was pissed. I was angry at God. I was angry at my circumstances. Why me? All the stuff that seems, those are all really reasonable questions. That's a normal posturing, I would say. And I got to go through those seasons of, rediscovering self and at times running from God and making some really bad decisions, to then all of a sudden getting to a place where I kind of was tired. I was tired of running. I was tired of, trying to find all the solutions and figure things out. And I really just needed to kind of let go and surrender. And I find myself in that place. And then I find myself in a doctor's office a couple weeks later. And he asked me, he said, Jarryd, what do you want to do with your life? And I was like, man, why are you even asking me that question? I had a deformed leg. I don't even know what tomorrow is going to look like. I can't even look beyond the present. I'm so overwhelmed by the reality of my present circumstances. I can't look one moment ahead. And that was really what I felt. That was the weight I was carrying day in and day out. And he goes, well, he said, do me a favor. He said, let's just, for the sake of this conversation, let's just take your deformed limb off the table for a second. And what would you want your life to look like? Go back to your 16-year-old self. What would you want your life to look like? And I was like, man, like, pain-free. I'd love to be able to run again one day, Lord willing, have kids and be able to play with them in the yard. I just want to live a normal life. I mean, at this point, I don't really want too much. And he looked at me, I was like, man, he's like, that's awesome. He's like, I love that. He said, but to be honest with you, he said, it's not realistic with the leg you've got. He said, but if you consider to have your leg amputated, he said, all of those things can come true and more. And he did something really profound in that moment, because I didn't realize how much the fact that living in pain and having a deformed limb and loss of identity stopped me from doing something that I was so good at a young age, which was having a dream, which was having something to hope in. And I had lost hope for such a period of time. And I allowed the reality of my present situation to dictate my ability to dream, to dictate my ability to have goals, to dictate my ability to hope in something beyond the present moment. And he, in that moment, got me to a place where I could begin looking beyond my present circumstances. And although there was a radical decision that was tied to that, it was in that ability to let go and trust something that was bigger than myself that has got me to the place that I am today. And I left that meeting with that doctor, and in probably 2 hours on a computer, I came across the Paralympic world record list. I called my parents in the room. I said, my name's going to be on this list. I said, I can run these times. It's not why I'm having my leg amputated, but I can dream again now, and this is what we're going to go after.
That's so dope, man.
You immediately have found para then, man. And I'm about to say, so you and I have somewhat of a relationship, and I will say, just that dedication to commit is what I've always known you for and to be. And, I mean, it seems like from a young age you had that. And it's kind of cool to hear that story. I know I've heard it a couple of times, but it's cool to hear it now and be able to connect the dots on how you went from one place to the next. So you find para, you look at this world record list, like, what about, you have to bear with this. This is the first time we've had a para guest on, and I'm sure it won't be the last, but when you go to a para event, you see a bunch of different categories. So when you looked at that list, did you already know where you fit in? Like, how did you kind of weed your way through where you would fit in, or if others are doing that right now? There could be a kid right now watching this who looks up to you and might not understand what they should be looking at or for, et cetera. So talk to us about that if you don't mind. Just that part of the journey.
Sure. God, Lee, and imagine 15 years ago. We're definitely light years ahead of where we were 15 years ago when it comes to information around parasport. So it was not an easy discovery. It was a long journey of just trying to figure out, what do all these numbers mean? T means track. All these numbers represent a type of physical impairment. So once it's like kind of decoding a book. Once I got the cheat sheet, then I could go back and start, comparing what were the numbers that I need. I finally got the code now. I can figure it out. But yeah, I mean, it was one of those things that, and this I would say in some capacity still holds true today. And I think that there's a lot of great organizations and teams that are coming together to kind of change this. But yeah, it's hard to, you get brought into a community, and we're the reality is we're all one accident away from being a part of the disabled community in one way, shape, or form. And that's scary to realize and think about. But like, man, I went from being completely fine to waking up and, we're in a completely different world, and I'm involved in a completely different community, and my needs are different. And so, man, it's all about kind of awareness and figuring out, hey, where do I need to look? What information do I need access to? I think the biggest thing for me was like, I knew that I wasn't going to be running right away, but I have always been someone that needs a goal, a massive freaking goal to go after, because then things fall into place. And I kind of I always say, if you've got a clear enough, a strong enough conviction and a clear enough way to communicate it, all it takes is the right team to achieve that goal. And that's kind of how I felt at that time. I need a goal. I need something that I'm going to go after, so I can speak clearly into it, and we can figure out how to get there. And obviously, the first step was having to get a leg to walk. You got to walk before you run. Even though I wanted to run first, we had to walk first, and there were a lot of barriers and things along the way. But I think the thing that, for me, one of the things that I'm most excited about with this new partnership with USATF and all the momentum going into LA 2028 around the Paralympics is just the global awareness that's going to occur, the national, perspective around disability, and really changing the narrative from being disabled to more being adaptive. We use technology to adapt how we move. There is no disability there. For sure. So I think that's one thing that I'm so stoked about. And I've gotten to see firsthand, I've lived the first 20 years of my life as an able-bodied athlete, as an elite able-bodied athlete. I see the standard that is there, and that is the standard that I've demanded throughout my career. There are people that I've gone through multiple different prosthetic companies because I have a standard of excellence, and I don't settle for anything else. And so I'm a pain in the butt to work with sometimes, because I'm like, sorry, it's not good. Do it again. Like, get it right. And coming into Paralympic sport and seeing that it wasn't quite there yet, and not at the fault of the athletes, but just there was another gear that needed to be put to play. And you go to London and you see this, whole entire campaign that they built around and how the community really got behind and understood para. You saw it happen again in Paris, and I'm really, really, really excited for the U.S. to be introduced on a personal level to the Paralympic community, because there are some absolutely unbelievable stories and some pretty freaking phenomenal athletes and performances across the board on all sports. And so I think for me, like looking ahead and looking at this next 3 to 4 years, like being able to be a part of that narrative, being able to be a part of telling that story and helping shift the perspective away from disability to the adaptive nature and the performance capabilities is pretty exciting.
So do you yourself, and I know the answer to this, but do you yourself actually follow the Olympics? And, are there others in the para community that follow the Olympics? And then my next question would be, like, who would you compare yourself to, if so?
Whether you want to support this team, participate locally, or have Olympic aspirations, join Team USATF. Visit usatf.org/membership to get involved in the action.
That's a really good question. I obviously very heavily follow the Olympics. My first memory of the Olympics was sitting in a living room. I was 6 years old. We had purple couches for some reason. I don't know what was happening in the early 90s, but we just need to leave it in the early 90s. But
all right.
Yeah, I don't know what was going on. Anyways, but I was sitting on this couch watching Michael Johnson, 1996 in Atlanta, Georgia, run the 200. And I just, I'll never forget that moment of breaking the world record and the gold shoes and the whole deal. So, that was early memory. And, been just an avid fan of all Olympics, not just athletics, all sports since. And, who do I compare myself to, man? I don't know. I don't do a whole lot of that, to be fair.
That's fair. No problem.
I don't know. We all have our unique gifts. I think that there aren't many athletes who have run at the elite level in the 800, 1500, and then also done the 100, 200, and then also long jump. So kind of a unique animal. And some of that was circumstantially, right? When I had my leg amputated, I was like, where's the 800? Where's the 1500? And then I realized that the only thing that was available for me was the 100 and the 400. And that was new. And so I was like, well, how am I going to turn myself into a sprinter? And, I had to kind of, relearn the sport in a new way, in a new lens. But the reality is inside para sports, because there's so many different impairments and so many classifications that represented, if every classification had every event, we'd still be running the 2021 Tokyo Games right now. I mean, it would take forever to run one track meet. So, they've got a slotted amount of events allowed, and it gets allocated accordingly. So I had to make the decision to either become a triathlete or to become a sprinter, and that was a very easy decision for me to make at that time.
Well, I'm gonna go ahead and call you Rye Benjamin. That's who comes to mind for me for you.
I bet.
So Rye can run the 400 hurdles, the 400, the 200. He could run the 8 if he really wanted to. I've never seen him jump, but I imagine he could. So I'm gonna give him Rye.
Right.
That is a massive compliment. I appreciate that.
I was going to say if you was a lady, Sydney, but you know what I'm saying? She long jumped in college too, so.
Love that.
It's got a little range there. Well, I mean, I think personally, outside of the circumstance, obviously, if you becoming an adaptive athlete, the training may be a lot more enjoyable for the 100 and the long jump in comparison to the 15 and
Facts.
8.
Facts.
I will tell you, I've thrown up more as a sprinter than I have as a distance runner.
Huh?
Yep.
That's backward.
Well,
thrown up.
Do tell, sir. Do tell.
My body and lactic acid. When we get into any type of lactic training, for some reason, my body's just like, nope. But I could hit it because in distance, for me at least, in the 8 and the 15 at the time. Now they doing different things now, but my training, we've never really jumped above 90, 92%. and really lived in that 85 range and just lots of reps, a lot of endurance. And then we do a little bit of speed day stuff. But, anytime, for sprinting, I'm living 95% and above most sessions. And so it's just a different level of lactic management. And my body still just doesn't know how to, doesn't like full tilt all the time, but we push it through it
That
and
red line.
get going, buddy. That's it.
That red line. And how much of that is attributed to, you have a new coach, right? With Coach Dan Paff, world-renowned sprint coach, jumps coach, hurdles coach. How much of that is due to maybe having a new coach and being in a new system, or just the stimulus is just different?
Well, I will retract that statement for the last 2 years because I've never thrown up during a long jump practice before.
All right, there we go.
So
I'm about to tell on you soon, but answer the question first.
Wallace is going to throw some shade at you for that one, but I will say, I'm excited. I'm excited for this next year because I think we're going to be able to test some things in some new ways. And one of the things that I've done differently over the last few years, and a lot of this has to do with Dan's programming and how he understands my body and what I need. But when I only train 3 days a week. I put a lot more emphasis on recovery, and I think that has been something. My injury has almost gone completely away. It's gone down exponentially. And then the other thing is when I take that extra time off, it allows me to be able to get back to that red line a lot more effectively, to where it's not a perceived 95%. It is a 95% every time we're out there. And if it's a down day, a perceived 95% is really 91, 92%. I'm never feeling like I'm at 95%, but metrically we're sitting at 87, 85%. That's very bad place to sit. And so, that's where a lot of injuries occur. And so that's one of the things that I've been really excited about. And, looking ahead, very, very much interested to see the fruit of the labors there.
Speaking of 90%, are we at least 91 to 95% we're going to make it to LA 28?
Hey, you know what? As any great Olympian or Paralympian does at the end of a quad, if they are not retiring, they build a 4-year plan for the next games. And that plan has been built. I will tell you that from 2011 or really 2010 when I had my leg amputated, the one thing that I have promised myself is that I will never, ever plan beyond 1 year at a time as far as full commitment. So I have a 4-year plan, but I'm never going to commit to more than 1 year at a time. And the reason is because, man, running is such a gift, and I've been given it back from a moment where I thought I'd never have it again. And I don't want to look too far ahead and miss the moments that I'm in right now. So I take it a year at a time because I want to be where my feet are. I want to be present. I want to have fun. I want to enjoy every moment. And if I spend the next 4 years looking at LA 2028, I'm going to miss a lot of amazing things in the process.
Whenever you answer like that, it makes it hard for me to dig and actually get dirt out. But I'm going to let you slide right now. Yeah. But hypothetically then, since we don't live past the year.
Hey, vote Jarryd Wallace 2032 presidential.
You a goddamn politician. Yeah, you got me on that one. You got me on the island right now. I'm not even going to lie. I'm going to have to pivot. But if we were to compete in LA 28 or in 2025, 26, 27, 28, 1 year at a time, with Coach Paff, I'm going to say his groups are pretty exclusive, pretty elite, but he likes sprinters too. So can we expect to see you in jumps and maybe break this world record in the 100, or are we just going to go ahead and cheer for our teammates? I'm putting you on the hot seat, brother.
That's fine. I'll take the bait on that one. Dan and I had a really interesting conversation in Paris last year, a couple of days before the finals, and we had a really great last training session prep, and we were just going back through numbers. And sometimes for me, like, the anticipation can kind of like throw me off. So, we try to just stay zoomed out and just talk about other things and just keep my mind on stuff, or sometimes look at metrics previous just to kind of like have something to distract on. And he goes, "Hey, Jarryd, what do you think about the 100? What do you think about extending the season and going and running the 100 a few times?" And I'm like, "Hey, you're talking to the wrong Wallace. That's a Leah Wallace conversation. I'm gonna let you have that one, not me, because I ain't about to go tell Leah that I'm leaving
There it
for
is.
a few more weeks." But I said, why you say that? He goes, "I was just reviewing some of our numbers from this year." And he said, "I think if we went and ran a few hundreds, we might piss some people off, quote unquote." And I was like,
Speaking your language now.
well, I said, "No, we're not going to do it this year." I said, "But let's get home after the games. We'll do our debrief, and take some time, and then we can kind of talk about what next year looks like." So we did that. And this year we are going 100% all in the 100. And it's really kind of crazy. The fire that was burnt out that caused me to switch to the long jump has been massively reignited. And it's not because coach thinks we can piss some people off, take that how you want it as far as, what that means. But it's because, back to what I was saying earlier, I've learned so much on the long jump runway that I think has made me such a more knowledgeable athlete. I cannot wait to apply it into the 100 and see what I can do. I don't think that we've seen the best version of me in the 100, and that's nothing against the performances that I've had and the coaching that I've had in the past, because I have been the world record holder in the 100. I have run the fastest wind assisted time. I don't know if that's still the case or not, but it was a few years ago. 10:57 is my fastest wind assisted 100, which is faster than the current world record. And so I think that there's more there. I'm stronger than I've ever been in my career right now. I'm healthy. I've got a great coach, a great team. I'm training smart. And so I'm fired up to go all in into this event. Doesn't mean that you won't see me in the long jump runway at times throughout the year, or at any given time, because we may need a reminder, we may need a freshener on some stuff. But I am really, really, really excited to go all in on the 100. Let that be kind of the priority for this season. And see if we can go piss some people off.
Yeah, listen, man. Well, that's exciting to hear, Jarryd. I know it has not been a easy journey for you, and it's definitely always exciting to hear where a commitment of confidence and support from a coach is felt, to that level, to that extreme. A lot of people discount, how important it is to have a team, and how important the ability to believe and have faith in yourself, and how important the ability and belief of someone else having faith in you is in your journey, man. That's huge. So kudos to you and Coach Path on that 100-meter journey here coming soon, man, for sure.
Thanks, dude. Yeah, it's exciting. I think too, when I look around, like the future of parasport has never been brighter than at this moment, and it's only going to get more competitive. It's only going to get times are only going to get faster, and more people are going to be competing at a really, really high level. And to have looked back on my career and to say, hey, I've played a role in that in a heavy way, but also my role is not done yet. It's kind of a fun place to be, and to know I'm pursuing this season and the next few years, whatever that looks like, not from a position of I have something to prove or I have one more thing I still want to accomplish, but man, I'm just having a freaking blast, and I'm loving what I do, and I'm still good at it, and I want to push this sport as far as I physically can before I hand it off to the next generation.
Well, we definitely appreciate the push and the passion that you exemplify in your pursuits. And with this new partnership between Para Track and Field and USA Track and Field, we are hopeful that we do see the sport pushed and plummeted forward. And there is a brighter future for the future of adaptive sports in the United States of America. We appreciate you for joining us, Jarryd. And I cannot believe it's so quiet over there. I don't know where the little ones are, but
I know where they are.
It is like a pin could drop over there, man.
I know where I would be if I was at your house right now. Before we do hop offline, I got to say this. We're going to talk about it. We're going to get a little bit of off track. Speaking of off track, we're going to go off road.
No pun intended.
Damn that. Man, you got an icy white truck, bro. We're going to talk about this sponsorship, man. That thing was nasty.
Yeah.
Talk to me about this, man. What'd you get?
Bro, yeah, Toyota, man, when they redid their Tundra, this thing is an absolute machine. So I was kind of part of their initial launch, and I had an orange, like crazy bright orange Tundra for a long time. And, for those that are college football fans or know anything about SEC, driving around in Athens, Georgia with an orange truck is not the look. I was the only orange truck, and everyone knew who I was, where I was, and it was time to no longer have an orange truck. And Toyota, man, they've been so good to me through our partnership. But they allowed me to trade it in for a brand new white, man, beautiful white Tundra. I took the party from the outside of the truck, put it inside the truck. It's got red leather interior through the whole place, man. This thing is a beautiful machine. Gonna add some features to it over the next few months to make it bounce even more. But yeah, that was Wallace and I were talking the other day when I got it, and he was like, "Oh man, let's go."
That it's vicious. Shout out to our sponsor, Toyota, as well. So yeah, I don't know how y'all feel about Jarryd. We love him to death, but Erik and Wallace like Toyota trucks too. I'm a Chevy guy, but I can be converted.
We can change that.
I like Toyota trucks. I like checks. I like cash, coins, direct deposit, Cash App, Zelle, Apple Pay.
It puts a Forerunner, Sequoia.
Yeah.
You got me. You see, they got me on the screen. Whatever needs to be promoted, as long as there's payment involved.
I don't need payment. Just give me the car. If y'all want to cover the gas, that's even better.
No, the car is cool too. Yeah, the car is cool.
Hey, I'll see if they'll throw you a Prius, my guy.
I'll take that.
I'll take it.
While
too,
you
man.
playing?
Listen.
I've seen the other guys.
Right, exactly. Well, any causes you want to shout out to, Jarryd? Any community programs,
outreach, kids,
any charities, and or anything?
Yeah, no, I appreciate that. I would say probably one just super dear and on my heart right now, involved with. It's a national organization called So Everybody Can Move. And their initiative is to get legislation passed in every state in the United States to support secondary prosthetic coverage. And why that's important is when you go through a traumatic injury where you lose your leg, insurance, how it's currently written, is they will provide a leg that is medically necessary. And they define medically necessary as basically one prosthetic to allow you to do your everyday activities, just getting back to a normal quality of life that is defined by just basic movements. So if your normal quality of life was being very active before, that doesn't fall. It's their deemed normal quality versus what your existing activity level was. So right now, all over the country, if you have an amputation, when it comes to getting a second device, so a device to be active, maybe to run in, maybe a device to do weightlifting exercises, maybe it's even a device as simple as to just take a shower safely. Insurance does not cover that device. And so this organization is pushing towards getting 28 states to pass legislation by LA 2028. If we can do that, then it's something that will allow us to take this to the national level, to DC, and actually potentially get this passed on a federal level, which means Medicaid and Medicare would have to follow suit in that secondary prosthetic coverage, which then would make it a federal law for every insurance in the country to be able to support and provide a secondary running prosthetic. So it's an amazing initiative. I've been heavily involved in the state of Georgia. We have a bill in the House right now. Got to speak at a committee meeting last week. We have a lot of really, really great momentum. We've got a bill coming out in the Senate hopefully this week. and it looks like we're going to be able to get some legislation passed, starting signed hopefully in April, and then it'll start January 2026. So we've got a lot of great momentum. We've got an amazing team here in the state of Georgia that's doing some pretty awesome things, and excited to be a part of this campaign on a national scale once we can get up to 28 states. So I think we're at 12 states right now. Georgia will be the first state in the Southeast to get it done, which is exciting. We've got bipartisan support on this thing, which is rare and hard to do at times. So it's really, really excited that Georgia's kind of approaching this from a common sense standpoint, and we're just trying to get the language dialed in to get it done and get it to the governor's desk. So man, just really excited for what's going on. If you are listening to this and you are interested in being involved, go to soeverybodycanmove.org and see what's going on in your state. Anything you can do to help, signing letters to your local legislators to get support, to make them aware of these things going on. It's so important, and just something that we're really, really pushing for over the next couple of years. So this is not one of those things that, wait a few years down the line and do it. This is the time to move on it now. We've got a lot of great momentum, and I think that we might be able to have some really big impact for the amputee community in this country over the next few years.
Oh, that's huge, man. We appreciate your advocacy and support of our organization, and we wish you all the best of luck in continued efforts.
Thanks, man.
Follow you on Instagram, Twitter, TikTok.
Yeah, Wallace_Jarryd, Jarryd, is the best way to follow me on Instagram. I don't really venture out too many profiles outside of Instagram, so that's your best place to catch me. I'm starting to get a little bit more consistent after the games. Took some time off, but now that training's ramping back up and traveling's about to start ramping back up, I'm getting a lot more engaged there. So please follow along the journey and support. Reach out if you have any questions as well regarding So Everybody Can Move or anything else going on in the Paralympic adaptive world.
We appreciate you, and if you're looking for him any further, you can catch him at Florida Relays this year. He'll be running anchor leg. On first leg will be Jeanette. On second leg will be Erik. Third leg will be Wallace.
Bro,
as long as they got a Toyota for me.
Huh?
As long as they got a Toyota for me.
There we go.
Hey, I'll drive my truck down, and you can take it for a joyride after we get that dub. How about that?
Yeah, we're back. We're on that note, man. We're gonna wrap it up. We appreciate you joining us, Jarryd. We thank you for your time and giving us insight into your journey in your career, into the journey and adversities faced by adaptive athletes. And yeah, man, thank you for joining us for another episode of USATF's Journey to Gold. So, peace.
Thanks for the platform, guys.